Before we get started in the study, a quick note to correct Dave's accidental misspeech, which may be misconstrued and misunderstood. Please see our videos on all of our streaming platforms except for YouTube, on Pharmakeia, and on The Strong Delusion. He accidentally misspoke. He said when COVID was released, he said it twice. I apologize, it's not what he meant to say. There are people, if you are new to Non-Toxic Home, then you will not know our opinions about this matter. You will not know the extensive research that we have conducted. So again, please see those videos about Pharmakeia. We also have articles about Pharmakeia on the website. Go search our website for microwave sickness. Please check that article out. That is critical information in regards to prophecy, in regards to the times that we're living in and what is to come. And it also explains a lot about what we've seen. Hello friends, thanks again for joining us here at Non-Toxic Home. We're always glad when you're here. If you have not already listened to our previous video on this topic of the second seal, our most recent, video on the second seal, because we do have at least one previous study up on it, then please do so. That's a prerequisite for this. So we finished that video in discussing, because this is a hard topic, seeing what is next in prophecy, as far as worldwide goes, is not a pretty thing. It's not a pretty thing at all. Obviously, it's amazing to be living in a time when we are seeing prophecy come to pass, because that means our God is real. That means our Bible is valid. That confirms the validity of it. That confirms that it was protected by the Most High. And so that is exciting. But knowing what is to come, that's a bit hard of a pill to swallow. And so we were sharing a few examples of how recently God has clearly protected us. Like there were a couple instances of vehicle and trailer issues where if it had happened anywhere but on our property, it could have been very disastrous. I mean, it could have hurt someone it could have hurt you, or it could have hurt somebody else. It could have hurt a child. I mean, the possibilities are endless when we leave our property. Well, when he leaves our property, because I don't go anywhere. But so we wanted that as a note of encouragement to you as we study this rather difficult topic.
And just, I mean, it's helpful to, as we continue to go through prophecy, it might be helpful to maybe figure out some training somehow of how to handle tragic situations calmly. Because if something bad happens and you react uncalmly and erratically, you can make the situation so much worse. So we, I guess, have been fortunate to have plenty of tragedy in the health world to teach us how to handle situations calmly. Things happen with the trailer, things happen with the truck, both this week. Both could have been really bad. Handling those things calmly, figuring out how to best fix them, requires a clear, concise, sound mind that is not erratic. If you're thinking erratically in any type of situation like that, 9 times out of 10 you're going to make the situation worse. If you've ever been around anyone who they break everything they touch, I mean they behave erratically. They're not paying attention to what they're doing. I use that example a lot because of the field that I've been in, and there are people who everything they touch turns to gold. It's just they know how to approach things and seem to handle things a lot more calmly. So the more experience you have with it, the better off you are. And if you haven't experienced it, maybe, I don't know where you can. I mean, we'll be glad to give you whatever advice we can. Figuring out, I don't know how you train for that kind of thing.
I don't think you can train per se, but we are told repeatedly, think in prophecy, think, and don't rely on your emotions. Think, put on the mind of Christ, put on the whole armor of God. We've got a couple videos up on the armor of God, the whole armor. That includes the helmet. Yeah. And we're told repeatedly to be of sound mind as well.
One thing I can tell you, remember to breathe. And if you're hyperventilating, I mean, that kind of stuff, that's an important topic to talk about, because if you don't handle it correctly, it can be so bad. But just remember to breathe. And if you need to take some deep breaths and to calm yourself down, so you can think clearly, do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the previous video, we did address the question: has a second seal been opened? Nope.
Nope.
It has not. When it is open, you will know. Just as the first seal, everybody in the world knew something happened everywhere. So it's going to be the same concept with the second seal.
The main, we'll mention this every time, or quite a bit at least. The difference between 2020 and beyond, and 2019 and before, is everything happens worldwide. These seals are all worldwide. The occurrences. There's things going on in Russia and Ukraine right now. That's localized, but you hear about it everywhere because the news is all over the place. And we don't really pay attention much to the news, but I mean, we have friends that keep us informed here and there, and you can't hardly post anything on YouTube or Odyssey or something like that without seeing a
headline.
The stuff is everywhere. That's not what we're talking about. The actual, we're talking about the actual events that are occurring, creating the seals. You will see those personally. Out your window, maybe.
Right, but we will continue to see precursors to everything. I can't even begin to tell you an extensive, comprehensive list of all the precursors for prophecy that we've seen. I mean, the war on food, the war on meat, the increased toxicity of the world, the precursor of the mark of the beast, the beast system and the surveillance state is cracking down. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. The signs in the heavens, crazy pants weather, earthquakes in diverse places. I mean, this is just right off the top of my head. So the question then, since we're discussing the second seal, by the way, if you're new here, hi, welcome. We're glad you're here. We believe, based on our study and studying since I was actually forced to do so by the Lord in 2020, that the first seal was open in March 2020. And Corona literally means crown. It was worldwide, every country in the world. Boom, all at the same time. And so that's a very quick summary, but you can please check out. Just go to Odyssey. We link below to Odyssey. You can search all of our videos on Odyssey. Go there, type in first seal. We got all sorts of videos on first seal. So when will the second seal be opened? When is it going to happen? Well, here's the thing. We don't know. Yeah. And anybody who says that they know is lying to your face. Yeah. Because they don't know. Nobody prophesied what was going to happen in 2020. Nobody said, in March 2020, or even nobody even said, hey, in 2020, this is going to happen. The first seal is going to be open. Nobody knew that. I mentioned in my last video that based on my Revelation 18 article about Pharmakeia, warning about Pharmakeia that I published in 2019, some people have said that, I knew that I did not know 2020 was coming. I did not know a worldwide lockdown was coming. I did not know the first seal was going to be opened. Right? There is no esoteric knowledge here. We just study a lot. And I prayed for discernment years ago. My request was granted. I encourage you to do the same. Strongly encourage you to do the same, because if you are not exercising discernment during these times, you're going to be led astray, because almost everything's a lie. Literally, almost everything that you are told, almost everything you were taught in school, almost everything you're taught in college, almost every book you read, almost every expert you consult, lies, propaganda, all for the dollar.
Let me know when I can go through this.
Go for it.
Would this be a good time?
Now's a really good time, yeah.
All right. So we have mentioned, she mentioned everything is a lie. Everything is propaganda. There has to be a systematic way for all of that propaganda to get out. Otherwise, it wouldn't. We have mentioned before that our lovely president and all of the leaders around the world, that they don't run the country. They are told what to do. So how do we know this? We've done research on money. We've said to follow the money. Mm-hmm. Recently, there was a very good documentary about just how deep down the rabbit hole that goes. But what I want to share with you tonight, just briefly, is companies, big companies, have shareholders. Shareholders, I mean, you can have 3% and not really have much to say about what goes on in the company, or you can have 80% and have a lot to say. There are 3 companies. I'm going to name them. Might as well. The dude did. He did. The Vanguard Group, BlackRock, and State Street Corporation are all hedge funds that own the majority of the businesses in this world. Now, State Street is Berkshire Hathaway is the fourth largest fund. Not really a big player. I mean,
big compared to Non-Toxic Home LLC.
Not big compared to running the world big. They're small potatoes compared to these other people. But the reason I'm going into this, Vanguard Group and BlackRock own $20 trillion in assets. If you look at, I'm just going to name 2 common companies, Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. They're in competition, but guess what? The Vanguard Group and BlackRock own both of them. They're both top 2 stockholders in both companies. That is the case for almost everything that you have in your daily life. If you have a pharmaceutical, mm-hmm. These 2 companies own the majority of stock in whatever pharmaceutical you're taking. If you look up at the very top, it's phenomenal. AT&T, I'm sure you're familiar with AT&T. They own a handful of companies. Vanguard and BlackRock own them. So when you think about the boardroom in your company, say you go to, I don't know, say you're big company in Indianapolis, and think about the boardroom that runs that company. Vanguard Group and BlackRock have their own boardrooms. There's a handful of people that are telling every other corporation in the world what to do. Obviously, there are people that are telling these guys what to do, because there are certain people that are so powerful in the world. When we're talking about God's the most powerful, but we're talking about people underneath this. They cannot get that information. It is literally unavailable. They are so powerful. But these people control the information the media gets, the information the pharmaceutical companies get, the information that the chemical companies have. They control all of it. Every single aspect of your life is under control by the Vanguard Group and BlackRock. That's where the controlling money is. So when we talk about things happening worldwide and things being controlled, at least on the level of the earth, we're talking about, like, for example, when COVID was released, these companies told everyone where to go, what to do, what to say, and how to say it. So it is estimated that I think it's by 2030 that the Vanguard Group and BlackRock will own everything. They don't own everything yet. They own $20 trillion in assets. There were pictures. I wish I had written down the name of this documentary, but Larry Fink is the face of the Vanguard Group, and there are pictures of him sitting at the round table back when Obama was president. So you think there's some influence there? It's important to know that obviously God is in complete control, and the devil has to ask God for permission to do things. So the devil is putting on these people's hearts what to do. The devil's going, hey, can I maybe have Larry Fink do this? And God says yes, and puts it on Larry Fink's heart to unleash COVID on the world, whatever. So it's important to know that the systematic way that information is, the propaganda that she was talking about earlier in a previous video, we've talked about plenty. The systematic way in which that propaganda gets out comes from these boardrooms and the meetings that they have with various people around the world.
And this all filters down. So there's a Nobel Prize winner, and I can't remember his name. I was listening to a docuseries that he did in 1980. Milton Friedman? I want to say it's Milton Friedman.
Sounds right.
And he stated in 1980 that the only people who truly are able to exercise free speech are tenured professors who are near retirement. Because if you're tenured, you can't get fired. And if they're near retirement, I mean, the university can't really do anything about it. Even professors who have retired are still hesitant to speak the truth at times, because I used to actually be a fact fellow coordinator when I lived in the dorms when I went to Purdue University, and I had a lot of really great conversations with some of the faculty fellows, and most of the faculty fellows that we had were already retired, and I learned a lot about how Purdue actually worked financially from one fact fellow that I worked with a lot, and Earl Notestein was his name. Him and his wife were just wonderful, wonderful people. And he talked about how, like, there were so many buildings falling apart on the campus. And I expressed to him concern about some of the buildings. And Indiana University has the same problem with moldy buildings and buildings that are falling apart and that are in disrepair. And this is a problem for universities and colleges in general. And he shared with me, well, the reason why this is an issue is because companies such as Eli Lilly donate the funds for a building called Lilly, because that's literally the name of the building, Lilly. So Eli Lilly, which is a pharmaceutical company, donated the funds decades prior for this huge building and the land on which it sat, but they didn't allocate funds for maintenance. And anyone who wanted to donate, who would donate funds that were significant, they wanted their name on something. They wanted a new building with their name on it. And so additionally, if it was funds that came from a corporation, then there would be tit for tat. Like, hey, well, there's this new pharmaceutical that we want to get approved. We need you to provide evidence that it's safe. Or there's this new chemical that we need approved, and we need you to prove that it's safe. It was never, we need you to examine it for safety. It was, we need this result. And if you have any experience with research at all, then you should know that it is easy to set up and design an experiment, any kind of study, for a desired result. Now, if for some reason you don't get the result that you are told that you're supposed to get, no problem. That's easy. All you have to do is manipulate the data. A lot of studies these days take more than half of the data and just throw it in the trash. And so you can do that. You could also process the data to smithereens for that desired result. And you can also just admit that you got a different result, but then just still come to a different conclusion. So no problem. This is how the world runs. And then you have people who get certifications from these organizations, from these universities or colleges, and that's where their information comes from. That's how the world works. That's how it works.
Yeah, remember that anytime someone has 20 years experience, 10 years experience, and if they are certified anything, that certification has come from some information provided by the Vanguard Group or BlackRock, most likely. And these people, they are very powerful. They pretty much they run the world. They're mixed. By the way, these families or these funds started with the likes of the Rockefellers and all these very rich families that started way back. They hide behind these funds. These funds are made up and were developed by these very powerful families. I can't really tell all of them, but that's what they hide behind. Mm-hmm. And so be careful. If someone says that they are certified anything, mm-hmm. I've recently had experience with dealing with a certified arborist that are company wanting to bring that kind of a situation in and believing them over us, and it doesn't really matter that they're certified. What that means is that they know what the chemical industry has told them is true and not necessarily what is observed.
Not actual fact, not the truth, right? So, and nonprofits work this way too. Mm-hmm. I've worked for nonprofits myself, and
oh Lord,
if you have someone on the board who has a specific agenda, the employees have to abide by that agenda or they get fired. That's a fact. This is our world, and that's how courtrooms work. Everything it's mind-blowing just how deep the deception goes.
The richest people below, I'm not talking about these funds anymore. The richest people, so I'm talking about the Bill Gates of this world, the Warren Buffetts, those people are very wealthy, but they got nothing on these guys.
Yeah, so it's highly... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Not quite done yet. These people, Bill Gates, they all have their foundations. And anytime they want to do good, they filter their money through their foundations. Their foundations are there to supposedly do good, but it's more...
fulfill their agenda.
Well, yes, but it's a way to take profits and make it. It's a way they launder their money through to do good things, or what they say are good things, which actually end up providing more money to fund what they're trying to do. But nonprofits, these philanthropies, all of it is designed to hurt you.
Yeah, it's all designed to poison us and to keep us confused. So it's highly significant that when Jesus was asked about the end times, the first thing he said was, don't be an idiot, think, don't let anybody deceive you. Like, first thing he said, don't let anybody deceive you. Let no man deceive you. Wow. So just looking at the world that we're living in and how it works, just that fulfilled prophecy is incredible in my opinion. So when will the second seal be open? We've already said we don't know. I don't know how we got onto that track, but it was relevant. So based on the health and welfare aspect that we previously discussed in our last video on this, and the obvious implications of 5G, maybe the second seal will be opened when that grid is up, because it is possible that there will be persecution during that. I know we're hearing, if you hear like weird noises like blah, 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 frogs are just going crazy.
They're having some fun out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took us a while to figure out what that sound was because we hadn't heard it before. We got some different species of frogs, and they're she believes that it's a mating call. Mm-hmm. It might be a mating call. They might be having some, what we like to call having some fun. So
they might just be partying because it's spring. It could be family fun.
Yeah, it was 70, we don't know. It was 70 degrees here today. So
right. So it could be not until there are more small cell towers. And it also could, maybe it's not until the space fence is up, what's referred to as a space fence. The small cell towers, there's been little pushback in regards to those. Here in the United States, the acronym agencies are the industry. Like, the industry is the government. I mean, it's the same thing. There's no difference. And so you can't really say that we're a communist company, because in communism the state tells the companies and corporations what to do. You can't really say that we're fascist either, because in the fascism the corporations and companies tell the government what to do. So it's a weird fusion. Realistically speaking, just saying this is how it is. It's a weird fusion. It's like nothing that it has a label.
And the strange thing is I know that we don't really pay much attention to it, but we did there for a while. The president would say that he can't do national lockdowns and things like that. What's actually true though is any of these acronym agencies, CDC, those kind of, they can.
They can, absolutely, yeah. So
they have every bit of power to do that.
Mm-hmm. So we are seeing more and more dissatisfaction among more people with legislators. at least here in the U.S. I don't know about elsewhere. I've heard that people are mad at Justin Trudeau in Canada. But at least here in the United States, I can't speak for everywhere else. But there's a lot more people increasingly upset about what the legislators are doing. They're not representing us. Of course they're not. They've already... Don't you know anything about politics? Because if you're a politician, you work for whatever industry is giving you money.
Yep.
You don't work for other people. So this is bringing us closer and closer to technocracy, and technocracy is ruled by the scientific elite, and there's no elected officials necessary in technocracy. And so we're being increasingly led that direction because the legislators have already legislated themselves into irrelevancy here, because the acronym agencies can do anything they want to at any time with no repercussions. So I don't even know why we even have it's such a farce. Everything's just such a farce. It's ridiculous. It doesn't even take a lot of research to see that.
No.
It just takes some discernment, really.
Discernment, and if you're not a reader, there's plenty of documentaries out there that will open your eyes to the truth. Have you ever heard the saying, "He who has the gold rules"? Mm-hmm. You have no idea how true that is. Mm-hmm. It is. My dad used to get mad at my dad for whatever, and he says, "Well, it's my house, so my rules."
Right.
That is on every level of government, whether it's a city government, whether it's the state government that you're in, whatever it is. Like she said, whoever is giving them money, they say, "I'm going to give you this $100,000 for your campaign, but you got to do this for me." Mm-hmm. So you take that $100,000, you got to do what they're not going to support you again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So in the second seal, we have peace taken from the earth, and we've discussed previously about how radio frequencies, specifically microwave frequencies, basically are a means of controlling your emotions. And if some people can easily be made to be violent and angry by utilization of specific frequencies. And this was researched in the 1940s or 1950s by the U.S. military and beyond since then. And by the way, for those who are targeted individuals, I'm very sorry. This is a real thing, and anyone who persecutes you, shame on them. But the fact is that this is real. This is documented. There's so much valid scientific documentation of this. There's so much anecdotal evidence. There's so many declassified government documents on this topic that it's unreal as to the amount of evidence that this is indeed true. And as someone who is remarkably sensitive to radio frequencies, I can attest to this, that at least for me, it causes anxiety. Well, now it causes all sorts of crazy things, but years ago I realized that Wi-Fi and cell phone caused me anxiety. And so if someone's anxious, they're more likely to eventually become either depressed or angry or any of these things. But specific frequencies cause specific emotions. They trigger specific emotions in humans and animals as well. So the 5GHz is clearly a directed energy weapon. There's no disagreement with this because that's what it was designed for. That's what it was specifically designed by the military for. This is a military weapon that's being deployed everywhere, not just in our skies, but also, and they're not high up there. They're very close, but also in schools, in nursing homes, in everywhere, really. In neighborhoods. And so there's not really been much pushback for the small cell towers because of all the propaganda mostly. A lot of people have been worried about them, but a lot of people who have been worried about it are still using cell phones and Wi-Fi. Shut off your cell phone as much as possible. Turn your Wi-Fi off and go wired. Don't worry about the small cell towers if you've got a small cell tower right here and a small cell tower next to your kid's bed. But the space fence is not going as Elon Musk would prefer. He's had a whole lot of explosions, unfortunately. Poor guy. Love your enemies. Bless those who persecute you. May Elon Musk be saved by the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. Many explosions, many delays. Here in 2020, there's been boom, 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 boom launches. It's been a lot more this year than previous years, but still moving forward. But there's still constant weird delays. It mostly, in my opinion, depends on how quickly the Most High permits the space fence, because I do expect that part of this is going to be involved in that, because of if peace is taken, part of that likely is going to be causing people to be angry and violent. So I love you.
I love you too.
Okay. We do believe that there is a second part of the first seal, as we've shared previously, but we don't know for sure. You can't really say anything for sure unless it straight up says. But it's unlikely that it's going to be soon. We think it's going to be years. So if March 2020 was when it first happened, 5-10 years could be for the second seal. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to keep in mind that the roughly estimated time frame for the entire process of things coming to an end is slightly less than 40 years.
Right.
So we have seals, there are trumpets, there are vials, and all of that. I mean, it's been mentioned as birth pains.
Yes.
And the starts slow and then very quick at the end. And I'm just speaking from what's been spoken to me. I know nothing about it.
Oh, well, it's repeatedly said in prophecy it's going to be like birth pains.
Right. I've never had a baby, so I've never been around a woman who's had a baby, so I don't know. I've never been around
okay, but sorry, go ahead.
I've never been around someone having a baby and seeing how the progression of birth pains go. Okay,
so I can tell you it starts out here, and then there's a long period of time, and then here, and then it just gets closer and closer and closer, and then right at the end it's boom, 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 boom. That's how the end times goes. That's how the end times is going to go. That's what prophecy says repeatedly. So, all right. So, nuclear weapons. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Oh, big topics.
Bring it out to the big guns. So, nothing's what we're told. All right, but it doesn't mean that nothing exists. It doesn't mean they don't do anything. All right. Shaking My Head Productions had a video. Are they real? I don't know if it's still up or not. Really, really good video on this, but I encourage you to do additional research as well, of course. Personally, I believe that they are chemical weapons. That's what I believe they are, based on just a lot of various things I'm not going to go into right now. But I believe that they are typical bums. Trying to make this YouTube friendly. Believe that they are typical bums plus chemical weapons, based on the evidence. This may not be exactly accurate, but that's just based on the evidence that I've uncovered. So I watched a while ago a series on Vice, which of course had lots of propaganda, but it was entitled "While the Rest of Us Die." Sounds like a really great
uplifting
series. Yeah,
I think that was on when I came in one day, and I thought that.
Right, they were like, we'll be right back to "While the Rest of Us Die" here on Vice. You're like, what are you listening
What are you
to?
listening to? Oh my.
Right. But there's some interesting information in it. And one of the things that was said was that 100 nuclear weapons used on the urban cores of Southeast Asia. So 100 in Southeast Asia, in the urban areas, would put enough smoke and particulate matter into the air to cover the earth in a shroud for 2 to 3 years. And this would kill 40% of the food crops of the world, unleashing a famine that would kill 1 to 2 billion people. And I found this, and obviously I stopped it and went back and wrote down a quote, because second seal, you've got war, you've got civil unrest, no peace anywhere. Undoubtedly, these weapons are going to be used in the second seal. And so if 100 of those weapons are used, 40% of the food crops would be destroyed, killing 1 to 2 billion people, and the earth would be in a shroud for 2 to 3 years. If you look at the third seal is famine, and the third seal also denotes darkness. If you look at some of the specific Greek words, so darkness, famine. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think one of the words might also mean winter, if I remember right. But that's logical, right? Because if you've got, particulate matter, you're not going to have sun, but plants don't require sun, they require light. There are 2 different lights if you read in Genesis.
If you read the creation story, we had plants before we had the sun.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so if plants are growing before the sun, then there you go. Yeah. So and then also there's additional evidence as well that there is more light than just the sun, the moon, and the stars. That there is an ambient light.
Yeah, I can't remember.
World.
I can't remember what day it was exactly. It's been a little while since I've looked at it in creation, when the sun and the moon were actually created. But day 2, we had day and night. So there is some other light out there that is that helps things drastically. So.
Yeah.
We'll do a video on that at some point and point things out to you.
God willing. Everything's God willing. So there's all those things about second seal. Another thing to keep in mind, how could Pharmakeia get involved here? We're talking about war and civil unrest and dissent. Well, I think you can probably know by now how Pharmakeia could be involved in the civil unrest aspect, right? I mean, the lockdowns, people protesting all of the mandates. There you go. There's civil unrest right there.
Keep in mind, also, through all this crazy, all this stuff that we're talking about, it says, biblically, people are going to try to return to normal until the very end.
Right.
And we're talking about boom, 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 everywhere. That was my YouTube friendly doohickey thing. I didn't know. We're talking about riots everywhere. We're talking all kinds of civil unrest, more than you can ever imagine. And people are still going to try to get back to normal when that happens.
Right. So right now they're talking about going back to normal, even though we've already been told, oh, it's a new normal.
Yeah.
That's not going to be normal. It's going to be a new normal. So let's say that the bird flu that's sweeping the world right now, if you haven't been paying attention, let's say that that's the next new worldwide thing. Or maybe it's not even going to be a worldwide thing. Maybe it's just going to be part of the world. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe that's the second part of the first seal. I don't know. But either way, it's destroying the livestock. Here in Indiana, as of a few days ago, over 174,000 turkeys have been destroyed. And let's see, over in Asia, I don't remember how many, some other kind of bird, pigeons or something like that. I don't remember how many tens of thousands have been destroyed. Chickens and ducks have been destroyed, and other types of avians as well across the world. Now, in the past 6 months, over 40 countries have reported incidences of bird flu. And I'm seeing a lot of parallels in the beginning of this that I saw the end of 2019. For example, it's starting out in animals, and we're being told, well, it's in animals, zoonosis or zoonotic diseases, which are diseases that are transmitted between animals and humans. We're being told, well, they're rare. You don't need to worry about it. Okay, so when it first came out recently, in February, I believe it was 2022, they said there's no risk of transmission to humans. The narrative is actually changing by the hour. So when I get this posted, who knows? Because literally it's changing by the hour. And that's another hallmark that I noticed with the COVID narrative, is that things literally changed by the hour. And also there was a lot of confusion amongst it, just in the media itself.
I remember I was still working in the world at the time. I remember getting a text from, I was a department head, and I remember getting a text from my boss, the owner. Stay tuned, things are changing by the hour. And I thought, stay tuned to what?
Right.
And I called him and I said, what on earth are you talking about? Dude was spending his weekend paying attention to the headlines of what was going on with COVID and all the changes and oh my.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I remember reminded of that.
Yeah, so things are changing by the hour. Initially it wasn't changing by the hour, but now it is. And because I'll look in the morning and it'll say one thing, I'll look in the afternoon and there'll be like five new places and all these new developments just in the course of a few hours. And so there's one parallel. I'm not even going to be able to think of all the parallels because I'm just putting myself on the spot here. But, well, I am. And then also, of course, we were told initially that the bird flu can't be transmitted from bird to human. They've changed that, and it's not no risk. Now it's low risk of transmission. And initially they said, oh, it can't kill anybody. And then now they're saying, well, there have been deaths in China. And so the first deaths are in China. That's interesting to me. I find that interesting, an interesting parallel. Also, initially they said no death rate. Now they're saying, now the World Health Organization is saying, well, it's a low risk. Don't worry about it too much. But if you get it, there's a 53% chance you're going to die from it. So don't worry about it. But if you get it, there's more than you're more than 50% likely to die from it. I mean, that's a really high death rate. And so, of course, I'm not endorsing any of these statements. I'm simply repeating them and saying, this is what I'm saying. And, of course, the only reason I'm keeping an eye on this is because we have sweet chickie girls. Mm-hmm. And we have to protect ourselves to keep anyone off our property. And we also have to protect them because we need to be humane and loving with them. Mm-hmm. So this is all relevant because of the pandemic treaty that they're working on. This is directly related to the second seal. Mm-hmm. If all or even most or even just half of the countries of the world sign this pandemic treaty, and then some of them say don't do what the treaty says to do for whatever reason, that's a really good Pharmakeia excuse to go to war, wouldn't you say?
And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we wouldn't need a pandemic treaty if they weren't planning to have more pandemics. So we have talked about how evil this world is. We've talked about who is in control of this world. Here's what they've come up with.
Right, so the people who are actually working on and publishing things on the treaty are openly saying, they are literally saying, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the next worldwide pandemic is. Which is kind of another indication to me that maybe there is really, truly a second part of the first seal, and that's going to be a second worldwide pandemic. I don't know. Obviously, we'll see. But as far as the second seal goes, I mean, I understand the tendency to think that things are coming really, really, really soon. Because we've all been programmed by the religious powers that be to expect 7 years. And even when you get out of the mindset of 7 years, it's still hard to think, like, okay, the second seal could be 10 years away. It's still hard to think that. It really is. Because that's just how we've been programmed. And also, I mean, the way this crazy world is, I mean, you expect everything right now. And the thing to keep in mind is that to the Most High, one day is like 1,000 years. And He exists outside of time. And our lives are like a vapor. I mean, we don't know how long history is. We don't know how long it's been since Adam was here. We don't know how long it's been since the earth was created.
We have a video up on one of our platforms about history and its definition and all that. So
history, of course, is written by the victor. The history video is on all of our platforms.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you want to think about what was before Adam, we do have some of that on our Luciferia and Tartaria video. If you go to our website and search Lucifer, you'll find that it's like a 20-minute video, something like that. But because our world that we're living in, this isn't the first world that's existed here, and the Bible actually tells us about that.
It's also not the first climate that we've
right.
been involved in. There's creation. If you go through first page of Genesis, there's some of the information about what we just talked about. It's literally on the first page of Genesis 1. Some of that is there, and some of the climate stuff is there too.
Yeah, and I actually just read yesterday in Deuteronomy where it says that everything God creates is perfect. So if everything God creates is perfect, then how is it that at the beginning of Genesis, if you look at the Greek words, like it's like it's like there was serious war. I mean,
it talks about darkness and a wasteland.
That's it, wasteland. I couldn't think of the word wasteland. Like the place was a desolate wasteland. God doesn't create a desolate. Desolate wastelands are not perfect.
and here's the thing. That's the New Testament. I don't think that wasteland is in the Bible. I think the word darkness is. And keep in mind, she showed you earlier, but we use the complete word study New Testament. If you get the Greek and the Hebrew, there's definition. These books have numbers, and then the numbers correspond to Greek and Hebrew words, which it tells you what they mean. And in the Bible, I'm pretty sure it just says darkness, and it will describe to you in as depth as it possibly can what that word means. And I think the Old Testament one would be in Hebrew, and the New Testament one would be in Greek. And my wife is smiling at me because I actually know that.
Right.
I couldn't have told you that a couple of years ago. But you can literally get, I'm pretty sure you can get all of our study books for less than a couple $100. Mm-hmm. And I know that some people might have been affected quite greatly from the stuff that has been going on. We've been fortunate to not have been. But it's really, I forget that the one that I really like to look at that has the long mm-hmm. definitions in it. What's that called?
It's the Complete Word Study Old Testament Dictionary. It's a dictionary, and then there's one for the New Testament as well. So
it's got pretty. I mean, not for everything. It's got some words. It has 2 pages of all the instances in that testament that it uses and what it means there. And you have to. She's alluded to a couple of times tonight that in this instance it means this. You have to be careful and make sure that number 1, it's not propaganda, because these books did get published.
Yep.
And number 2, that you have the correct instance. It will specify the verse exactly a lot of times. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it gives a general meaning. But I say this because wasteland is not in the biblical word. I think in the actual Bible, it's darkness, and darkness has a lot of meaning to it.
So, right, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't remember. It's been months and months since I looked at that. So
yeah,
I've read a little bit since then.
Right, and we both have the New Testament.
Have the New Testament over here,
so we can't open it up and look at it.
It's fine. But the important thing to communicate to you is that it is important for you yourself to study yourself. If you don't have the funds for, like for example, what we use or something else, there are plenty of online tools that you can use, to search tools that you can use to look for yourself without spending a dime extra. And we encourage you to do so however you are able to, because there is so much. The English language is sorely insufficient. And a lot of words in Greek or Hebrew, they just can't be translated into one English word, or even 2 or 3, because there's so much more information within just one word. So hopefully that helps you in your study, and hopefully this addresses any questions anyone might have about the second seal. I think we've addressed pretty much everything that's come up about the second seal, and we will pray for strength, physical, well, not so much physical, but more spiritual and emotional and mental strength for everyone who is listening, and we hope that you will do the same for us, because these are perilous times in which we are experiencing, and we obviously have no idea what is to come for each and every one of our lives, but we know that God will be there for us and hold us and protect us as He sees fit. So.
All right.
Non-toxic
out.